This is not a show. This isn't for tourists.
Not at all.
We are standing maybe amid the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, or maybe beside the stone castles of Gondar, because we are joining this moving, multi-day ritual. And it is all centered on one extraordinary claim. We are following the ark.
Right.
So this is Timket. We'd know it in the West as Epiphany, celebrating the baptism of Christ.
But in Ethiopia, it's something else. It's a 3-day nationwide transformation.
And what makes this so different from, almost any other Christian festival on earth is that the most sacred core of the ritual leaves the church walls and walks right out among the people. Exactly. And our source material for this deep dive, it really captures the unique power of this. So our mission today is to go beneath the surface, beyond the photos, and extract the core insights.
Why is it called the most authentic cultural experience left on the planet?
That's the question. We need to unpack the secrecy, the deep history, and just the absolute joyous chaos that makes Timket so unforgettable.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this by starting right at the beginning. The movement. The first day is called the Ketera, the eve.
Mm-hmm.
This is when the sacred objects are moved to the water source for the baptism commemoration. The sources paint this vivid, almost unbelievable visual, calling it the River of White.
It's a perfect description. I mean, imagine tens of thousands of people, sometimes hundreds of thousands, all wearing the Netela.
That's the traditional white cotton shawl.
Right, the lightweight one. And they gather to escort the spiritual centerpiece of the whole festival, the Tabots, the sea of white moving slowly against the red earth and the ancient stone. Mm-hmm. It's just visually stunning.
And the Tabots? This is where Ethiopian history and faith become, absolutely singular. If you haven't been following the story, this is a major aha moment.
It really is.
We are talking about replicas of the Ark of the Covenant.
That's right. And the theology behind it is just critical. Every single Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo church has a tablet. It's a consecrated tablet on the altar, and it's believed to represent the Ark itself.
And this all comes from the belief that the original Ark is in Ethiopia.
It's housed, they believe, securely in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum.
So, if the original Ark is in Axum, why have all these replicas? Why are they the focus of Timket?
Because the Tabot is considered the physical dwelling place of God's presence within that specific church. It links the church's identity all the way back to the covenant given to Moses.
So it makes sure the local parish participates directly in that history.
That epic, unbroken history, yeah. So when the Tabot leaves the church, it is quite literally the divine walking out into the public sphere.
Which brings us to this element of sacred secrecy. These objects, they aren't for public viewing. They're hidden.
From almost everyone, except the highest clergy. They are enveloped in these rich embroidered silks and carried on the heads of the priests.
Why, though? Why the secrecy?
Well, the sources emphasize that this rule reinforces the profound ancient reverence for the Ark's power. Viewing the Ark or its representation by an unauthorized person is historically seen as perilous.
Dangerous.
Incredibly. So the procession is an act of profound trust. You're revealing the presence of God, but shielding the actual form of the covenant.
Now, this is where the postcard image completely fails you. This is where the sources deliver the real insight. You might see a photo of one priest carrying a wrapped tablet under a velvet umbrella. It looks so serene.
That image is entirely deceptive. It tells maybe 1% of the story.
It does. The reality, as described by people who've been there, is that the energy is just overwhelming. You might have 10 priests, but you have 1 million people behind them.
1 million people.
Just try to visualize that scene. The rhythmic, almost hypnotic sound of the sinazol and the booming drums, combined with thousands of voices chanting in unison in gaze. A language that hasn't really changed its liturgical use since the 4th century.
And that's the power of it. The tabots move slowly, escorted by priests with these glittering brass hand crosses, the sibyl, and the crowd presses close, just desperate to be near that manifested presence.
It's like a physical current of devotion.
It is. You're breathing dust, you're breathing incense smoke, and the collective fervor of a nation. It shows this faith is not some quiet, private thing. It's a muscular, loud, public declaration.
So after the the beautiful chaos of the Ketera procession, the tabots arrive at the site, often a place like Fasile's Bath, and the whole energy shifts into this solemnity, the night vigil. This, to me, this is the hidden gem side of Timket.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Because the night vigil reveals the community at its core. People travel enormous distances. Some walk for days through the highlands.
Carrying their children, their belongings, just to be there.
Yeah, and they don't check into hotels. They sleep outside, on the grass, bundled up against the cold.
It creates this beautiful, timeless scene, so disconnected from our modern world. You see campfires lit all across the fields, these little bursts of light against the deep Ethiopian night.
And families are sharing their food.
Right. The big spongy injera flatbread and that slightly sweet, dense dabo bread.
And while all this community life is happening, the priests maintain constant prayer all night.
Which is incredible.
What's fascinating here is the sheer continuity. This is not a ritual that showed up on a colonial ship in the 19th century.
No, our source material really stresses this. The Christianity of Ethiopia is indigenous.
It dates back to the 4th century. King Ezana of Aksum converted the kingdom. Ethiopia was one of the very first nations in the world to adopt Christianity as a state religion.
And the rituals, the languages, they've just remained largely intact.
The sources describe the practice as stubborn in its preservation. It hasn't been diluted or westernized. It's a direct line to the ancient world.
You can feel that continuity when you hear the night vigil. That geese chanting, that complex liturgical language. It's like an auditory time machine.
It creates that feeling of depth. You realize you're part of a tradition that predates most of the cathedrals and practices of Europe.
And it's sustained by local effort, too.
Yeah, the sources mention seeing local youth groups, dressed in their traditional lion mane headwear, practicing their esquista dances for months.
They're gearing up for this day.
It's a tradition that is actively owned and celebrated by the next generation. That guarantees its survival.
So as the night begins to fade, all that collective anticipation, all that waiting and praying in the cold, it all converges on the main event.
Yes, the moment of spiritual renewal. If you're in Gondar, the scene at Fasilides Bath is magnificent. It's this huge walled reservoir built back in the 17th century, now filled with water just for this.
The visual is breathtaking. The first slivers of sunrise hitting the water, and the gold-leafed umbrellas, the dabab, they're unfurled over the priests and the tabots,
reflecting the light, making the water glow.
This is the moment. This is what the thousands of people have traveled for. The priest, representing John the Baptist, takes the ceremonial cross.
And the central ritual is done quickly, but with incredible import. The cross is dipped into the water, and then the priest sprays a small amount of the sanctified water into the crowd.
With a hose or a sprayer.
Yeah, that part's a bit modern, but the act itself, that blessing of the water, is the symbolic reenactment of Christ's baptism. And it's the pivot point. The energy goes from solemn anticipation to, explosive release.
That's the cue for the dive.
The dive, which is undeniably the most visually energetic part of the festival. As soon as that water is blessed, you just see the youth, mostly young men, scrambling up the high walls that surround the pool.
And then they leap, not just one or two, dozens of them, plunging into the holy water.
It's an unadulterated explosion of sound and spiritual fervor. It's splashing, cheering, just pure, joyful chaos.
It's their renewal, their physical participation in that spiritual moment.
And this is where the sources really emphasize the difference between watching and participating. You are not standing back with a camera.
No, you're deep in the crowd. You are getting soaked. You are being pushed by a joyous crowd. You're breathing in the energy of this collective belief.
It stops being observation and becomes complete immersion. It forces you to realize that, as one source put it, this isn't a museum, it's a living, breathing renewal.
You're being swept up in 1,600 years of unbroken history.
It's physical. The cold water, the cheering, the closeness of the community, it engraves the event onto your memory. It's a full-body encounter with tradition.
Now, you'd think an event this intense would just dissipate quickly, but that's the genius of the celebration. The energy transforms and just keeps going into the third day.
That's right. The tabots are carried in these triumphant singing processions back to their churches, but the celebration of the life that follows the baptism, the life of Christ, is already underway.
And this is where we get into the pure celebration, the Cana Galila.
The commemoration of the wedding at Cana.
Where Christ performed his first miracle, turning water into wine. It's basically a feasting period that brings the cities to a standstill.
And the sources really zoom in on the sensory details here. The streets are just alive with vendors. You have traditional street food, but perhaps most importantly, the incredible intricacy of the traditional coffee ceremony.
Which is not a quick caffeine fix.
No, it's a ritual in itself. It's this slow, deliberate act of community. The woman of the household, or the vendor, she roasts the green coffee beans right there on the coals.
So the whole air fills with that rich, pungent smoke.
Exactly. Then they grind them, brew the coffee in a clay pot, the jabina, and serve it in these little cups in a multi-round ceremony. It's this extended moment of hospitality and bonding.
A direct contrast to the rush of the modern world.
Totally. And then you have the music and the movement. You mentioned the youth practicing their dances.
Now we see them on full display.
The Eskista dance is a signature move. It's this vigorous, athletic, shoulder-shaking dance, often performed in a competitive, highly energetic way. It's just a powerful, joyful, uninhibited cultural expression.
It kind of synthesizes the whole experience.
It does. It's faith, history, and community, all expressed through physical abundance.
So, if we step back and connect this cultural tableau to the broader implications,
Yeah.
what does this 3-day nationwide act of faith tell us about Ethiopia today?
I think it's a profound demonstration of resilience. The external narratives we often get about Ethiopia, they tend to focus on conflict or famine or scarcity.
Right.
Timket just flips that narrative completely.
It shows abundance, not just spiritual, but cultural abundance.
And profound hospitality. A culture that is incredibly disciplined in its ancient traditions, yet it's capable of immense, vibrant joy. Timket is an annual, unwavering statement that this history, these traditions, this identity, they aren't just surviving against the odds.
They're flourishing.
They're flourishing and dominating the urban landscape for 3 straight days.
And this brings us back to you, the listener, the person who's seeking depth in travel and in knowledge. We're at a moment where that curated passive travel is, I think, losing its appeal.
People are tired of the Instagram spot.
Yeah, they're seeking experiences that challenge them, that demand interaction, and that genuinely change their perspective.
We're seeking tradition with deep, verifiable roots.
And that's why diving into Timket matters. The sources are unanimous on this. This isn't a festival you watch from the sidelines. It's a festival that utterly consumes you.
It demands that you breathe its dust, feel its press, and share its joy.
It offers an experience of history that is still dynamically alive.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought to mull over. If you are truly looking for a preserved antiquity, a tradition of Christianity that's unmediated by external colonial influence, a history still